To win a smile from a beautiful woman, a son of heaven turned the beacon towers into a toy and lit them again and again. Lords from every direction marched through the night to save the throne. They arrived to find no enemy at all, only laughter from behind the palace walls. They came a second time. Still nothing. When the Quanrong tribes truly swept in and the beacons blazed again, not a single army would answer. That's the coldest opening scene in Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms, King Yu of Zhou, Baoxi, and the beacon fires that fooled the lords. One joke turned 800 years of Zhou mandate into ruins. Later readers say, don't play with trust. People who play with trust always think, just this once. Just once is enough to scatter a kingdom. Good evening. This is Bedside Book Voice. Tonight we read Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms. If you are already lying down, dim the lamp a little more. Set the phone farther away. Pull the blanket up. This book is long. War drums, chariots, oaths, betrayals. It sounds loud. But the parts that suit a night like this are the quiet moments. One man enduring 20 years. One man wearing the seals of 6 states at his belt as he walks through 6 kingdoms. One man handing over his son and his throne together. You don't need to memorize names. You don't need to memorize dates. Close your eyes and follow my voice. If you fall asleep halfway, that is fine too. So let me set a small rule first. Tonight we are not trying to finish all 108 chapters. We only want a few images that won't leave you. Beacon fires lighting and dying in the night. Guan Zhong rising from prisoner to prime minister. Chong'er, Duke Wen of Jin, proclaiming hegemony after 19 years in exile. Gou Jian sleeping on firewood and tasting bitter gall. Jing Ke singing his last song beside the Yi River. You don't need to remember who destroyed whom. Remember how people chose their roads in chaos. This book runs nearly 600,000 characters across 108 chapters. We'll turn it like an old photo album and pick only the pages that touch the heart. What you carry away are a few reminders about power, trust, and endurance. If you forget them, that is fine. If you sleep, let the book keep you company in your dreams. Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms is not trying to make you the cleverest calculator in the room. It wants you to hear, even inside all the noise, 1 or 2 quiet warnings. Do not waste trust. Do not mistake endurance for cowardice. When the tide turns, stand steady first, then think about the next step. That opening question stays buried for now. Why did the Son of Heaven play the realm until no one believed him anymore? That thread runs from King Yu and King Ping's eastward move all the way to Qin swallowing the 6 states. Tonight you only need to remember this. No one started out wanting to lose a kingdom. Most people narrowed their road through many rounds of this time should be fine. We'll go slowly. By the end you will see that once trust burns out, even the brightest beacon is only an echo of laughter. Confucius and the spring and autumn annals are woven through these 500 years too. Confucius is not the hero of Chronicles, but the words spring and autumn carry extra weight because he edited history. He said restrain yourself and return to ritual, trying after ritual collapsed to pull order back into place. But lords fought for hegemony with force, not with ceremony. Reading this book, you may feel that ideal and reality are like 2 blankets on the bed. One wants to cover you fully. The other keeps getting pulled away. Do not worry for Confucius. Just remember that some people kept records and some people wrote stories, all trying in chaos to leave later generations a voice that says, don't walk that way. First, know the book. Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms is a long chapter novel from the Ming writer Feng Menglong, with commentary by the Qing scholar Yuanfang. It stands beside Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Journey to the West, Water Margin, and Dream of the Red Chamber is one of China's longest historical romances. It tells the story from the fall of Western Zhou and King Ping's move east to Lui, through 500 years, until the first emperor united the 6 states. Eastern Zhou and the title means Zhou after the eastward move. The many states are the lords who rose on the ruins of the old order. Kai Yuanfang's notes are like an old man writing small words in the margin. Here someone grew greedy. Here someone grew impatient. Here someone should have listened and did not. You don't need to read every note. Just feel that people long ago also feared repeating mistakes, so they left words for those who came after. Feng Menglong also worked on Romance of the Three Kingdoms in Water Margin. In his hands, these earlier 500 years became stories you can lie down and hear. Chapter by chapter, each ending often leaves a hook, like a bedtime tale that says, "We will continue tomorrow." Do not let the length frighten you. Most of the material comes from Zuo Zhuan, Stratagems of the Warring States, Records of the Grand Historian, and other histories. Feng Menglong wove them into continuous stories. Kai Yuanfang added commentary, like a teacher whispering at your side, "Look, this step went wrong." People often say the book is 7 parts history and 3 parts romance. Major events have roots in records. Dialogue, detail, and inner thought are often the author's art. As we listen, I'll try to tell you what comes from official history and what later hands embroidered. You only need a rough sense. A romance is not a history book. But it brings the human heart closer, and that suits a slow night. If you heard our episode on Stratagems of the Warring States, you may remember that book as a case collection on how to speak into the human heart. Tonight's book is wider. Not only persuaders, but kings, generals, assassins, advisors, beauties, fathers and sons, brothers. It's like a 500-year scroll asking one question. How did the world move from lords honoring the Zhou house together to 7 states standing side by side, each other's knife and cutting board? In plain words, the old banner still hung at Lui, but no one truly obeyed it anymore. If you played Three Kingdoms games as a child or watched historical dramas, many names already live in your ears. Chronicles sits on an earlier layer. Many idioms and old stories grew from these 500 years. The book's opening often stays with readers. The Zhou house revived under King Xian. Then King Yu ruled without virtue. Beacon fires fooled the lords. Bao Si smiled once, and the Zhou ancestral temple fell. That is not idle decoration. It's the outline for the next 500 years. King Xian still tried to gather the realm. Then King Yu made one joke and burned trust to ash. Trust is like hot water by the bedside. Once it cools, reheating is harder than the first boil. The lords were not disloyal by nature. They had been tricked too often. When real enemies came, who would march through the night again? Histories disagree about Bao Si's smile. Some call her cold. Some call her bitter. The romance writes her as a smile that toppled a kingdom, more theater than trial. You don't need to judge a case tonight. Only remember that when trust becomes a toy, rescue becomes empty sound. After King Yu died, King Ping moved east, and the Zhou house became name without substance. Then came the spring and autumn period, named for the annals Confucius edited, roughly 240 years. Lords still waved the banner of honoring the king and repelling barbarians. In practice they fought for land and voice. Whoever could speak for the Zhou son of heaven and judge disputes was pushed forward as hegemon. The 5 hegemons of spring and autumn are counted differently in different sources. The names you hear most often are Duke Guan of Qi, Duke Wen of Jin, King Zhuang of Chu, King Helu of Wu, and King Gou Jian of Yu. 5 men. 5 ways of living. 1 age of disorder. A hegemon was not an emperor. He was a temporary class monitor. His title borrowed from Zhou. His strength came from himself. Monitors changed often because no one could truly set the rules. These 240 years saw constant war, yet people still spoke of alliance. Blood oath treaties said who would fight together and who would be protected. Treaties sat on bamboo slips while each heart kept its own ledger. Alliances broke. Hegemons changed. Reading Chronicles, don't only remember who won a battle. Remember when alliance still worked and when it was only a slogan. When slogans remain but trust grows thin, the warring states are not far away. If you have heard Zuo Zhuan, you may notice many stories in Chronicles wearing different clothes and gaining new dialogue, becoming more like bedside tales. We need not ask which is truer. Ask which suits your closed eyes better. Before the hegemons take the stage, one story is often called the first lesson of spring and autumn. Duke Shuang of Zheng defeated his younger brother Duan at Yen. Brothers of the same mother fought over fiefs and military power until swords met. Zhuang was tolerant on the surface and calculating underneath. Their mother favored the younger son. The more she gave, the more he wanted. In the end, Zhuang defeated Duan at Yen, and the brother fled into exile. The story is cold and true. In chaos, family affection often loses to power. If you lead a team or live an ordinary life, you have probably seen it. People are not born wicked. Positions change and words change. Duke Shuang is not pure villain. He also has moments of generosity. But generosity hides calculation, and calculation ends in arms. Reading Chronicles, don't rush to take sides. Watch first how power pushes one household into opposition. Next comes the first true hegemon of spring and autumn, Duke Guan of Qi, and the man who rose from prisoner to prime minister, Guan Zhong. Duke Guan was called Xiaobai. When he fought for the throne, Guan Zhong's arrow struck his belt hook and nearly took his life. Yet after Xiaobai became ruler, he did not kill Guan Zhong. He made him prime minister. Many people can't take that step. Guan Zhong reformed Qi. Tax by land. Choose talent by merit. Put the army in order. In plain words, he shaped the state so it could fight and also live. Duke Guan listened. He convened the lords many times and once righted the realm, gathering alliance after alliance. In name he honored the Zhou son of heaven. In practice Qi's prestige passed Luoyi. Bao Shuya recommended Guan Zhong, saying he could govern the people within and bring the lords to heel without. This drama of enemy turned chief minister is moving in the romance, and it shows the difficulty of using people in chaos. Sometimes you need talent before you can set down private hatred. If you lead people by daylight, you might ask yourself, can I separate he wronged me from he is useful to the work? You may have memorized 4 words in school: honor the king and repel the barbarians. Honor the king means honor the Zhou son of heaven who still hung there in name. Repel the barbarians means fight the peoples pressing from north and west. In plain speech, keep the banner upright and do the work cleanly. Duke Guan knew how to use people. Guan Zhong knew how to govern. Before he died, Guan Zhong warned Duke Guan to keep 3 petty men at a distance. The duke did not listen. After his death, 5 sons fought for power and she fell into disorder. I often pause here. When a man dies, do institutions remain? Does trust remain? How long can one person's brilliance hold a state up? After Guan Zhong came Yan Ning and the Tian clan replacing Qi, stories for another night. But the lesson of using people and guarding against small men, Chronicles returns to it again and again. The second hegemon, Duke Wen of Jin, whose name was Chong'er, reads more like a long exile journal. He was a prince of Jin, caught in the turmoil stirred by Lady Li, and wandered abroad 19 years through Chao, Shu, and Qin. he took losses and received kindness. King Cheng of Chu asked him, "If you return and hold power, how will you repay me?" Chong'er answered, "If our states meet in battle, I'll retreat 3 days' march." That line later became an idiom, and it is one way of writing credit. Not empty shouting, but words kept in the heart. When the moment truly came, he did retreat 3 days' march, then defeated Chu at the Battle of Qingpu. Retreat was not cowardice. It was speaking first and leaving a road for the self that would come later. Chong'er's story does not teach how to win. It teaches how not to lose yourself at the lowest point. 19 years in exile. Some followed him. Some abandoned him. After he took the throne, some were rewarded, some killed, some honored after death. If you are in a low place now, don't rush to prove how strong you are. Ask first whether you still remember who stood beside you when it was hardest. Duke Wen's gift was memory. He remembered kindness and remembered injury, but remembered to the point, not killing wildly and not forgetting wildly. Jie cut flesh from his thigh to feed his lord, then hid in the mountains and refused office. Chong'er set fire to force him out, and Jie died in the flames. The romance writes this painfully. It shows the difficulty of grace and pressure. When gratitude becomes control, grace can wound. On the road of exile, Chong'er met Jie, Hu Yan, Zhao Chui, and others. Some stayed to the end. Some left midway. Reading Chronicles, you feel that a low place works like a sieve. It shakes off the false and keeps the true. But how the one who rises treats those who pass through the sieve decides how far the state can go. The third is King Zhuang of Chu. 3 years without a cry, then one cry and all are startled. 3 years without flight, then one flight to the sky. Later generations hung those words on him. They may not be literal fact, but the temperament fits. When he first took the throne, he drank and watched dancers all day and would listen to no advice. Then someone used a great bird as metaphor, and he roused himself to rule with discipline. The most famous scene is asking about the weight of the 9 tripods. Envoys came from Zhou, and he pointed at the sacred vessels and asked how heavy they were. He was not asking about metal. He was asking whether the Zhou Son of Heaven still deserved to sit in that place. The words sound arrogant. They were the plain truth of spring and autumn. Titles remained. The scale already sat in another man's hand. Chu called itself barbarian and therefore carried fewer burdens, daring to ask and dare to act. Central lords spoke of honoring the king while each kept his own ledger. After these 3 hegemons, 2 lines can't be skipped. One runs southeast. One runs northwest. Southeast is the struggle of Wu and Yu. Northwest is Qin pressing east. The 2 lines are like 2 ropes that in the warring states twist into one and tighten around the necks of the 6 states. You don't need to memorize the map tonight. Only remember that the bustle of Chronicles is countless local stories strung together. Strung together, you see how power changes. Southeast is the contest of Wu and Yu. King Helu of Wu used Wu Zishu and shattered Chu, nearly destroying it. King Gou Jian of Yu lost, entered service to Wu, held horses for King Fuchai, tasted his waste, and endured every humiliation. After returning home he slept on firewood, hung bitter gall beside him, and tasted a mouthful each day so he would not forget. 20 years later Gou Jian destroyed Wu. Chinese listeners have heard this from childhood. But think more carefully. The story is not revenge feels good. It's endurance. Put your face down. Stretch time long. Trade one burst of anger for 20 years. Listening before sleep, you need not learn revenge. Learn that some things can't be settled tonight. Fuchai spared Gou Jian once, not from softness but from face. Once face is full, the road grows narrow. Wu Zishu is the hardest man on this line. His father and brother were killed by the king of Chu. His hair turned white in a night. He passed Jia Pass and sought help from Wu. He strengthened Wu, then urged Fuchai to destroy you. Fuchai would not listen. He saw Gou Jian enduring firewood in bitter gall and knew Wu would fall. He advised again and again. Fuchai gave him a sword and told him to die by his own hand. Before death he plucked out his eyes and hung them on the eastern gate. He said he would watch Wu perish. The story is bloody and true. In chaos, the man who sees too far often dies by the hand of his own ruler. Not because he was wrong, but because the short-sighted king could not bear a long speech. The romance writes Wu Zishu whipping the corpse of the Chu king with terrible force. Historians dispute it. Take it as theater, but remember hatred that knows only venting rarely saves a state. The northwestern line belongs to Qin. In spring and autumn Qin sat on the western frontier. Central lords treated it as barbarian. Yet it pressed east bit by bit and grew stronger. Under Duke Mu of Qin it could already ask about the tripods, but could not yet swallow the realm. By the warring states the board changed completely. The landmark event is the partition of Jin by the three families. The houses of Han, Zhao, and Wei pushed aside the ducal line of Jin until the Zhou son of heaven was forced to recognize them as lords in their own right. Sima Guang began comprehensive mirror for aid in government from that year because in his eyes ritual collapse began when ministers could divide a state. You don't need to take sides tonight. Only remember that cracks in the old order often start when titles remain but real power has already changed hands. After the three families divided Jin, the warring states began. Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei, and Qin stood as seven powers. Wars grew larger. Reforms grew urgent. Speech grew harsher. In the second half of Chronicles you feel the pace quicken. Allies today, betrayers tomorrow. Vassals this year, attackers next year. Human hearts were not worse than in spring and autumn. The stakes were higher. Lose, and you might lose not one border town but the whole state. Warring states is like a chess game accelerating, each move closer to only a few pieces left. Listening may tire you. Living it tired them more. So tonight we take only a few key moves and leave the rest to sleep. The first name you must hear in warring states stories is Lord Shang and his reforms. Duke Xiao of Qin used Xiangyang, abolished the well-field system, rewarded military merit, and made punishment and reward clear. When the crown prince broke the law, he was punished like anyone else. Reform touched old nobles. After Duke Xiao died, Xiangyang was torn apart by chariots. But the law remained. Qin had chosen its road. Build state power with institutions. Use state power to swallow the world. If you try to change rules by daylight, you probably know the reformer may not live to old age. But if the rules truly remain, later hands keep walking the same road. Xiangyang's death is tragedy and romance and history alike. Beyond tragedy lies the road to Qin uniting the six states. A person can perish. A road can continue. Another story you must hear is Sun Bin and Pang Juan. They studied under the same master. Pang Juan envied talent, had Sun Bin's kneecaps removed, and branded his face. Sun Bin pretended madness, fled to Qi, then used besieged Wei to rescue Zhao and reduce cooking pots to lure the enemy, setting an ambush at Mailing Road that drove Pang Juan to kill himself. The core story lives mainly in records. The romance makes it more theatrical. You don't need to memorize tactics. Remember that envy can ruin another person and also ruin yourself. True strength is not crushing a fellow student. It's living long enough to finish the board. Pang Juan's dying words that he had made a mere boy famous are hatred, yes, but also admission. He lost not to one move but to the breadth of the whole game. Qin and Zhang Yi, vertical alliance and horizontal alliance, you may already know from Stratagems of the Warring States. In this long romance they are the hands that stir the board. Qin wore the ministerial seals of 6 states. Zhang Yi broke the 6-state coalition. Roads opposed. Eyes equally bright. Read the tide first. Read the person second. Tonight we won't unfold every speech. Leave one sentence. Warring states had not only blades but mouths. Sometimes the mouth moved faster than the blade and cut deeper. Chronicles puts persuaders into a continuous drama, and you see words can save a state or ruin one, join or split. The same mouth, different direction, different ending. Stories like Mao Sui recommending himself and Zhu Jiwu sending Qin home alone are all one person holding up a moment. In chaos, crucial hours often depend on crucial people. But crucial people are also pushed by circumstance. Pushed right, they become legend. Pushed wrong, tragedy. Lin Xiangru returned the jade intact to Zhao. Lian Po came with thorns on his back to ask forgiveness. Together people call it harmony between general and minister. Harmony does not mean no conflict. It means after conflict you still walk the same road for one state. Lian Po first refused to accept Lin Xiangru. Later he learned Xiangru stepped aside for the nation's sake, not from weakness. Xiangru was not soft. He put the state before the self. If there is friction in your team, remember this before sleep. Winning one breath often loses the whole board. Returning the jade intact was wisdom. Bearing thorns on the back was courage. When wisdom and courage serve one goal, a state begins to look like a state. King Wuling of Zhao and his adoption of nomad dress and mounted archery was another kind of reform. He had Zhao wear short northern clothes and learn cavalry. Fighting power rose sharply. But in later years he mishandled succession and was trapped at sand dune by his own son, starving to death. Reformers sometimes die outside the reform itself. Not because the reform was wrong, but because after changing the state they left themselves no road of retreat. Reading history at night I often ask, why did he win on the battlefield and lose at home? Nomad dress and mounted archery were right for Zhao. Family arrangement was wrong. A person can do right in public work and still hand his life to the wrong hands in private. The Battle of Changping, whereby Qi buried 400,000 Zhao soldiers alive, is the cruelest page of the Warring States. Zhao Kuo talked of war on paper. The king of Zhao set aside the old general Lian Po and put in young Zhao Kuo, falling into the trap of Qin general by Qi. You may have met this story in Stratagems. The romance writes it more painfully. 400,000 is not a number. It's 400,000 homes. Before sleep you need not imagine blood. Only remember that talking war on paper harms not only yourself but everyone who follows you. Zhao Kuo was not unread. He had not read the field. Battlefields don't trust standard answers. They trust whether you can hold the line. Before Changping, Lian Po held the walls and wore Qin down. The king of Zhao grew impatient and changed command. One change and the board died. If you make decisions by daylight, ask whether you change people because they truly fail or because you can't bear slowness. Slowness is sometimes strategy. Haste is sometimes death. Lord Xinling stole the tally to save Zhao. He was a prince of Wei. With help from Hoang and Lady Ru he took the king's military tally, killed General Jin Bai, seized the army, and lifted the siege of Handan. Later he stayed in Zhao and dared not return to Wei. The name Xinling stands for righteousness and risk together. He saved one city and placed himself inside a king's suspicion. In chaos, being good sometimes costs that much. Stealing the tally was crime. Saving Zhao was merit. Merit and crime sat together, and history and romance both hesitated over him. You don't need to judge him tonight. Only ask, if it were you, save one city or guard one tally? As Qin marched east, Lu Buwei, Li Si, and Gan Luo each showed his gift. Lu Buwei rose from merchant to prime minister, kept 3,000 retainers, and compiled Master Lu's spring and autumn annals. Gan Luo went on mission at 12 and became a high minister. Romance exaggerates such details, but what you hear is this. Warring states left a scene for the capable. Age and birth mattered less than whether you could finish the task. The relation between Lu Buwei and Ing Zheng differs between romance and records. We need not judge that case tonight. Only remember that in chaos birth can be rewritten, yet endings are still pushed by power. Qin swallowed the 6 states like collecting pieces from a board in order. Han, Zhao, Wei, Shu, Yan, and Qi fell one by one. Father and son Wang Jian and Wang Ben commanded armies, steady and ruthless. Li Si assisted government, legal and tight. When Chronicles reaches this point, there is often a feeling of ending. Not triumph. Emptiness. 500 years of many states ended in one Qin. Listening before sleep, you need not weep for the 6 states. Only ask at which step each narrowed the road of survival. Was trust gone? Was change too slow? Did internal quarrel split them first? Did one battle become the wager of national fate? There is no standard answer. Asking is more useful than memorizing dates. We're halfway through tonight. Let me ask one small thing while you catch your breath. If this voice has kept you company, tap like and subscribe. Think of it as leaving one lamp on in the night. You don't need to sit up. One finger is enough. All right. Let us continue with Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms. The 4 lords of warring states, Lord Mengchang, Lord Pingyuan, Lord Xinling, and Lord Chunshan, appear often in Chronicles. Lord Mengchang kept 3,000 retainers. A man who crowed like a rooster and another who stole through a dog hole used small talents to save a great life. Lord Pingyuan had Mao Sui recommend himself. 19 men could not persuade, then the 20th stood up and opened another line that helped save Handan. You may have met these in Stratagems. Chronicles weaves them into one continuous play, and you see that the rise and fall of states often hung on a few people willing to speak up. Not only kings could change the board. Retainers, guests, and small figures could at a crucial moment hold up a door. Here is another story with a different tone. Laozi rode a green ox out through Hangzhou Pass and left 5,000 words called the Tao Te Ching. That is not the main line of Chronicles, yet in the same age some people fought for cities and some chose to walk away. Chronicles writes struggle and thereby shows how rare not struggling can be. If you heard our reading of the Tao Te Ching, you might listen to both tonight. On one side chariots thunder. On one side an ox walks slowly. Same age. 2 ways of living. Neither is higher. Only ask which suits your breathing tonight. The last scene belongs to Jing Ke. Crown Prince Dan of Yen treated him like an honored guest. He answered the prince with his life. At the Yi River farewell they sang, the wind sighs, the Yi water is cold, the brave man goes and won't return. The attempt to assassinate the first emperor failed. The dagger appeared when the map was unrolled. Jing Ke was killed. Qin destroyed Yen, then the remaining states, and the first emperor united the realm. 500 years of many states closed inside one cauldron. Jing Ke was not a persuader. He was an assassin. Yet his story sits in the same long scroll, which tells you the warring states board had not only mouths but lives. Some boards reach the last step only when words no longer pass. Most things in your daylight life won't reach that step. If you can talk, talk first. If you can slow down first. Chronicles does not end in universal joy. After unification came book burning, buried scholars, and government harsher than tigers, stories for another time. Feng Menglong wrote. Kai Yuanfang commented. They wanted readers to use the past to watch the present, to see rise and fall, human hearts, and choices. Listening before sleep, you need not learn schemes. Learn how to stand when power shifts. Do not play with trust while it still exists. When you endure for the long road, not for cowardice. Unification was not the finish line. It was the opening of another story. Chronicles teaches you to see rise and also to see decay. Some finish remembering only plots for power. Some finish remembering, don't light false beacon fires again. Same book. Different ways of reading. Different things carried away. If tonight you choose the second, that is light enough. One more kind of person in Chronicles is worth remembering before sleep. Yanning served qi, lived plainly, spoke straight, and turned small matters into large lessons. Jie Jitue hid in the mountains and chose death over reward. Assassins like Yao Li and Zhuan Zhu gave their lives for one promise. They were not hegemons, yet they gave the long scroll more color. Some sought power. Some sought righteousness. Some only wanted peace inside their own hearts. You don't need to choose their roads. Only feel that chaos has not only winner narratives. It also has narratives of living without winning. Those sometimes suit the night better. Let me gather a few ways of reading so you don't sleep remembering only noise. Do not treat this as success literature. Hegemons also die. Meritorious ministers are also killed. Reformers are also torn by chariots. The book wants you to see cost, not pose. Do not remember only winners. King Yu, Zhao Kuo, Fuchai, and Pang Juan are mirrors too. Separate history from romance. Guan Zhong, Chong'er, and Gou Jian have broad roots in records. Dialogue and detail are often invented. Invented does not mean false. It means the human heart is written more clearly. Use power as the thread. Spring and autumn was struggle for hegemony under the banner of honoring the king. Warring states was 7 states swallowing one another to survive. The same person speaks differently and walks differently in different tides. Compared with Romance of the Three Kingdoms comes later, focusing on 80 years and 3 houses. Chronicles is earlier history, 500 years and dozens of states. Compared with stratagems are cases. Chronicles is serial drama. Compared with Zuo Zhuan is chronicle. Chronicles is story. You can think of Chronicles as a bedside version of a long scroll. You don't need to verify every line tonight. Let the images enter first. Check history by daylight if you wish. If you heard the art of war, Suanzi asks whether you can fight. If you heard stratagems, persuaders ask how to speak. Chronicles asks after fighting and speaking whether the person remains and whether the state remains. The 3 books are like 3 maps laid together to approach a fuller lesson of chaos. If you heard Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you will find much of the later story growing from the earlier 500 years. The mouths of vertical and horizontal alliance became the mouth of Zhuge Liang debating at court. The struggle of hegemons became the tripod stand of Wei, Shu, and Wu. Reading Chronicles is like reading the prequel to Three Kingdoms. You don't need to read Chronicles first to understand Three Kingdoms. But after Chronicles, Three Kingdoms gains another layer of depth. A few words repeat through the book. You can treat them like nails beside the pillow. Power. When the great tide turns, small cleverness is often not enough. Trust. Fool the beacon once and no one comes when real fire arrives. Endurance. Gou Jian and Chong'er made time their friend. Change. Xiangyang's reform and King Wuling's reform. Those who would not change often perished first. Righteousness. Lord Xinling and Lin Xiangru. Righteousness is not slogan but choice. Sometimes choose the state. Sometimes choose the Lord. Sometimes choose the line inside your own heart. 5 words are enough to rest on. You don't need to memorize the whole book. Father and son. Brother and brother. Duke Shuang and Duan. Duke Huan and his 5 sons. King Wuling and his sons. In chaos, the family often splits first. Not because family matters less, but because when power and profit press close, family is hardest to keep. If you are parent or child, don't force a match tonight. Only ask whether you have separated home a little from the board. Separate a little and the heart grows lighter. Beauty is also a thread. Bao Si, Lady Li, she sure. Romance loves the phrase beauty who topples states. Yuanfang sometimes comments in that tone too. Listen more closely. The trouble is often not the beauty herself but power turning everyone into pieces. King Yu wanted laughter, not the realm. Fu Chai wanted face, not policy. Do not push all blame onto one person. Watch the whole board. No matter how loudly war is written, the lines that last best at night are often a few exchanges of speech. Chong'er retreating 3 days' march is credit kept. Lian Po bearing thorns on his back is admitting fault. Shu Long persuading the Queen Dowager is turning a corner. These suit bedtime better than one great battle. If you must speak a hard sentence by daylight, you can learn this. Acknowledge feeling first. Shift angle second. Offer a step down third. Chronicles has many such scenes, only wrapped in armor. If you worry this book feels too cold, here is a gentler way to read. Read choice, not calculation. Guan Zhong chose to use talent, not to settle a private score. Chong'er chose to remember kindness, not to vent anger. Lin Xiangru chose the state, not the self. Choose right and you may still not win. Choose wrong and you often lose first in the heart. Before sleep, set today's choices down lightly. Choose again tomorrow. 500 years of story. Feng Menglong arranged them into 108 chapters. You don't need to chew by chapter title like homework. Listen as one long night road. Walk a stretch. Pause a stretch. Chapter titles often pair in rhythm, like Wu Zishu whipping the corpse of the Chu King, or King Gou Jian sleeping on firewood in tasting gall. Hear only the titles and you are already turning pages of an old picture book. Read deeper and you find people making small reversible choices inside what can't be reversed. Yuanfang's notes sometimes say lamentable, sometimes say don't do this. You don't need to remember. Only feel that readers long ago also searched mirrors in old history, asking themselves not to take that step. Back to the opening loop. Why did the Son of Heaven play the realm until no one believed him? Because he treated trust as a toy. The lords were not born disloyal. They were drained by false alarms again and again. When real enemies came, no one came. That lesson belongs not only to emperors but to anyone. If promises are often discounted, when real need arrives the door won't open. If you lead, love, or parent, remember tonight one line. Light fewer false beacon fires. When real trouble comes, someone may still run for you. Trust is like water by the bed. Cool water can be warmed again. But if you splash it away again and again, who will want to stay near? If you remember only 3 people, I suggest Guan Zhong, Chong'er, and Gou Jian. 3 verbs. Govern. Remember. Endure. Govern means shaping days into something livable. Remember means not forgetting who once gave you a meal. Endure means trading tonight's anger for tomorrow's road. 3 men. 3 low places. 3 ways out. You don't need to copy all they did. Take one verb. It may serve a long while. If you remember only 3 scenes, beacon fires lighting and dying in the night, Chong'er promising to retreat 3 days' march in Chu, Jing Ke finishing his song beside the Yi River. 3 scenes are enough to rest on. Names fade. Images remain. The charm of Chronicles is images. Chariots, odes, fire attacks, the Yi River, hunger at sand dune, bitterness on the firewood pile. Close your eyes and let them pass frame by frame. Keep one frame if a frame won't pass. These 3 frames match 3 words. Trust at the beacon. Endurance on the firewood. Righteousness at the Yi River. No need to memorize. Rest on them. The temperament of the whole book can close in one line you may know from elsewhere. Empire long divided must unite. Empire long united must divide. Romance of the 3 kingdoms borrows that opening too. Between division and union lie countless lives. Before sleep you need not hurry for the ancients or for yourself. Power divides and joins. People rise and fall. Tonight you only need to lie still and give the rise and fall to sleep. Feng Menglong wrote in the Ming. Readers then often felt use the past to warn the present. We read now not to warn anyone in particular. Only to glance in the mirror. Have I treated trust as a toy? Have I mistaken endurance for cowardice? Have I treated change as betrayal? One glance is enough if it stays light. One more line from Chronicles for tonight's close. Do not use power to the last drop. Do not seize profit to the last grain. Do not exhaust every scheme. Power, profit, and scheme leave margin. You worked all day. Now is the hour to set the scale down and give it to the bed. You don't need to win outward tonight. Eyes on your face. Words for tomorrow. Rest now. 500 years of drums should grow quiet here. Your breathing should slow too. Feng Menglong wanted readers to finish with a little more alertness and a little less luck. Yuanfang wanted readers to finish remembering not only noise but cost. Close your eyes. You don't need to remember every cost. Keep a little alertness. Before good night, one small question. Among 500 years of story, which scene would you carry away? Beacon fires fooling the lords. Guan Zhong made prime minister. Chong'er retreating 3 days' march. Or Jing Ke's farewell at the Yi River. No need to answer now. After you wake, tell me in the comments. I read every one. If you like nights like this, subscribe and tap the bell so on the next sleepless evening I can find you again. Next time we can read Roots in the Vegetable Garden. From 500 years of drums back to one soft line beside the pillow. Smaller, softer, better for falling asleep. Let the lamp stay dim. Nothing to fight. Nothing to calculate. Tomorrow you will be human again. Tonight be the lightest part of human. A person lying down. Set today down. Leave tomorrow to tomorrow. Chronicles wrote 500 years. You only need remember tonight's few steps. Do not treat trust as a toy. Do not treat endurance as cowardice. When power shifts, survive first, then talk about ideals. Sleep. Good dreams to you tonight. This is Bedside Book Voice. Good night, see you in the pages.